Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to be working on a BMW 530d F10. This is a 2010 car. If you've got F11, which is the state version of this car, it's going to be the exact same process. So in today's video my plan is to show you how to disconnect the engine from the gearbox and take the engine out. So if you want to see how this is done, stick around and I'll show you how. So what you want to do is just remove this boot cover here. And this will gain you access to the two terminals of your battery. The one on the right is the black one. So this is the neutral, this is what you want to remove. And that's it. That's your battery disconnected. So now you can safely work on your car if you're disconnecting your engine or anything like that. This is a must. We're going to be taking this engine out to replace timing chain and timing chain guides. It's going to be a big job, so hopefully you enjoy it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this engine cover. It just simply lifts up. The next thing we are gonna remove is the intake pipe. This is what I'm gonna be using. Long ratchet with 7mm socket. So literally just put this from behind between the radiator or the fan cover, and this will loosen the pipe. And it's a good idea at this point to disconnect the mass airflow sensor. I don't want to put pressure on these pipes, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just disconnect this one as well. So you've got an 8mm screw here which is connected to the coolant bottle. So take that screw out. And get the airbox out with the air filter. Okay, we've removed the airbox, we've loosened up the bolt here on the intake pipe. And this pipe is out with the muff airflow as well. The next thing we're going to remove is this insulation here on top of the rail and the injectors. So take that out. In the next steps we're going to be removing all the cabling and wiring. So I'm going to start with the positive alternator cable here. So just remove the cable itself. And what we're also going to be doing, we're going to loosen this bolt here as well. So what I suggest, the best way to remove this bolt here without causing any damage is to get an adjustable spanner and just place it here to grab the base. So when you grab the base, then you just go in reverse, hold it, and that's going to loosen it. This is the best way to loosen it without causing any damage to the frame. It's plastic and it will break if you twist it too much. Now this cable is loose. I'm just gonna take this out of here and I'm gonna place the nut back in place. For now, okay, close this and let's move on to the next step. In the next few steps I'm going to work on the removal of these cables here, so I'll show you the easiest way to remove these. So this one here, which is the DPF sensor, we're just going to click this and we're going to try and wiggle it and pry it out. That's one out. Use a small screwdriver and just pry this little clip open. So once you do that, this is like a little clamp and this will loosen it, and then you can remove the rest of these. Now in the same way, squeeze this on and then pry it out. Okay, one more out. Another one. You want to insert something sharp on the bottom here. Just pry this out and this will open up and just push it down. It's simple as that. And what I'll suggest to do with the if you want to remove this whole thing here off the frame, just get a sharp tool. There's a little locking tooth, so just open it up and this whole thing will slide down, and it's much easier way to remove it this way and keep it all together rather than trying to take this out. So this whole bit of the wiring is undone. This is E7, so I can actually do this by hand. So if I undo this bolt, might need to get a magnet, or maybe I'll be able to pull it out with my fingers. Yeah, this is a screw, it's not a bolt. So that's that out. And then we've got E8 here and here. So we've got these disconnected. There's a little clip here side, and this should just lift up. MAP sensor, the mass air pressure sensor. And there's another one here which is on the motor that turns the swirl flaps. So we're going to disconnect that. There's another one of these. Okay, that's loose. We're going to need to loosen these bolts here on the EGR pipe, just so we can get these plugs out whenever we unplug them. There's another plug here, so you can literally just put your finger, pry against this wiring conduit and just pull out the rail sensor plug. So that's out. There's one more over there. This one is easy enough on this regulator, so just pull that out like that. Just don't rush these things. Take your time because you don't want to cause any damage. I'm going to remove the EGR plug now. Okay, that's it. So we've got one more in there. That's out as well. These are 10mm, as I mentioned. So we're going to loosen these so we can lift up this EGR pipe. Another one out. Now in the next step, I'm going to remove this EGR pipe here. There's a bolt here which will loosen up this clamp. So this, you can remove it in two parts. Okay, so you can just leave it there, and this has a bit of movement now. I've replaced these bolts, and as I've shown you in the video before, because they were completely corroded, this time it's going to be much easier to remove. I believe they're 10mm heads. So I've got long extension with a 10mm nut or socket. So I'm gonna grab the bottom one first. And now the top one. So we're going to remove the top one as well. Now these are stainless steel, so I do not want to be dropping these, because then I won't be able to get them with a magnet. I'll extract the bolt now with these long pliers. Okay. My plan worked. So that's how you don't drop a bolt in there. There's another sensor here. I use these long pliers, long nose pliers, and just squeezed on this tab and just pulled it out. And then you've got one of these clips that holds onto the oil filter housing. So this is loose. The last one I have to take out is the air compressor plug here. Pry the little tab out and just push it out with a large flat screwdriver. This worked perfectly for me. Now this harness is out of the way here, so we can, in the next step we can remove the intake manifold. We're now going to remove the intake manifold. So we've got 7 bolts. We're going to loosen these bolts. I almost forgot there's a bolt underneath here which is for the dipstick. So the dipstick attaches to the intake manifold by a 10mm bolt. Before we remove the gearbox, I'm gonna remove this panel here. I'm gonna disconnect the intercooler, I'm gonna drop it down, and then we're gonna drain the coolant from the system. 2 screws, really easy job. One of these hooks, and this will help me disconnect the intercooler charge pipe. I'll just pull this a little bit so I can take the pipe out and then drain the coolant. So now in the next step we're going to remove the aluminium heat shielding, and then you're going to have the prop shaft exposed. So from there you literally disconnect the front and the rear and the center bearing. So that's all you have to do at this point. Just gonna tighten this back in place. Okay, just snug it up. So this here is free. We've removed the ground cable. Now I'm going to bring you over on this side, so I'm going to show you the actual electrical plug. We need to lift this up, so we have to be very careful because we don't want to break anything. Okay. And this is internal 8, and I'm just about reaching it. So what I will do now is, just before I remove this, I'm going to get my bucket. So that's one of the bolts out. Second bolt out. One more of the small ones, and then the other ones are E14. I've dropped the gearbox a little bit with my transmission jack. So what I've planned to do is to use all my extensions that I have and an E14 socket. Okay. I've removed 2 bolts so far. And what I will advise you to do in this situation here, get a hammer and make sure that this is fully in place. And now I'm going to use my extra long 1/2 inch ratchet. Okay, this is what you want to hear. This is not fun, but we're going to get there in the end. And once the bolt loosens a little bit, then you can always do it by hand. and just gently pull it out. Now it will come out actually. And just be careful not to break any clips or anything like that. In the next step that I'm just about to show you, I'm going to remove these two brackets here so I can pull this shroud out. And we've got T40 bolts here. Disconnect this crash sensor here. You can see this is a crash sensor and it's connected with a little plug here, so we can gently take this out of the way. Be careful not to damage this. In order to remove the crash bar, you're going to have to remove this plastic over here so we can gain access to the bolts and nuts. We've got a temperature sensor, so I'm just gonna relocate it. I'm gonna place it to the side so I can access these nuts, and I'll show you a little bit better from a different angle. These are the two bolts you want to loosen, and you've got the exact same thing on the other side as well. So let's go ahead and remove these two here. 13mm nuts, sorry, bolts. The nuts are on the bottom, and these two bolts as well. You want to remove this plastic bracket here. There's a little kind of like a weak tooth that holds it there, so you just want to maybe just loosen it up a wee bit with a screwdriver and then pull it up, and then that will come out, which should hopefully at this point allow us to remove this out of here. I'm gonna try my best to show you how to disconnect the cooling system hoses here. So you have a clip here that you have to lift. Now put your finger on it when you're pulling it, and what I would suggest to do is get yourself maybe one of these pry tools just to help you out. You don't want to pull on the hose too hard, and if you just slide it out, that shouldn't put up a big fight. Pull up, and in the exact same way place your pry tool. Be careful not to break the bottle. Just be very careful. Actually, I have this cooler, intercooler charge pipe in the way here, which I have fully disconnected. I just need to remove out of the way, and this will make my life a little bit easier. And you can just give it a light wiggle. You don't need to remove it completely, as long as it has disconnected. Okay. one more here and give it a good wiggle. This is Torx 25. Hopefully you can see this. I'm gonna slide a small screwdriver coolant pipe out of the way. Yes, this is coming out. Just give it a good wiggle. That's out. Don't forget your clip inserted in place. Now let's disconnect the last hose that holds the radiator in place here. That's the clip. I'm gonna help myself with a large thick screwdriver. Just pry it out of its seat. Just be careful not to damage anything. Don't force it. If it doesn't come out, give it plenty of wiggle. That's that pipe. So that's our coolant radiator out of the way. I'm going to show you how to remove the alternator belt. This is a 16mm nut. So once you've done that, then you can loosen up your belt. Slide it out of here. You've got the air conditioning pipes slightly in the way, which are obstructing a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. And you've got one more hose here. Don't forget that before you remove the engine. This is the air conditioning compressor here, so I'm going to show you how to remove it without disconnecting the lanes and losing all the gas. If you're a professional workshop, you may have a system for collecting the air conditioning gas. I don't, and I don't want to have to regas it again. This is obviously going to cost, is going to add a lot more cost to the customer. So what I will do is I'm going to remove the air compressor or the air conditioning compressor with the lines, move it aside. You've got flexible connections here, so hopefully it will be all right. and we'll see how we get on now. There's one bolt here. It's a 13mm socket. So I'm going to pull this out. There's a little washer on it. It stays in place. There's another bolt at the back, which is just right here. So disconnect that bolt as well. And then we're going to have one more under this plastic bracket here. I'm going to have to loosen the alternator a little bit. We've got two 16mm bolts that I can see here. And there's the bottom bolt. And this is really good job. I'm really happy that we managed to remove this air compressor without disconnecting the lines and losing the refrigerant inside. So this way we're gonna save this customer a lot of money by having to go to a specialist. There's no specialist in the area, by the way, so this is another problem. And he does use air conditioning from time to time in the summer, so this saves him a lot of hassle to travel far and then also to pay for the service. In the next step of the engine removal, we have to disconnect the two engine mounts. We've got two E14 internal Torx bolts on the side of each mount, so we're going to remove these bolts. This is the left hand side engine mount, and this is the bolt we need to remove. The mount stays in place. We remove this E14 bolt on each side. I'm going to show you how to loosen the bolt from the second engine mount. This is the bolt here, so make sure you place your ratchet nice and flat. You don't want to slip. In preparation for the removal of the engine, we've got to do a couple of more things. We need to put the front bonnet or hood in service position. I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to make use of my engine crane to support the bonnet whenever I loosen up the two shocks that hold it in place. And then one more thing is the electrical box that holds all the quick connections to all the wiring or the wiring harness. So we're going to open that up, remove them, disconnect them. So that should be all the engine wiring disconnected from the chassis, and after that hopefully we'll be able to pull the engine out. So in order to remove the lid of this box here, you've got 4 T25 screws. So let's loosen these up. You've got a few clips here, so just be careful not to break them. Lift them up. This is a 10mm nut here. You've got a couple of ground wires connected, and after that we should be good to go. That's all the wiring fully disconnected. I'm going to wrap this in a plastic bag so I don't get any dust or any debris inside them. You're going to remove these clips that hold the little ball joint here in place. So the best way to do this is to just pull this clip out. Now, apart from removing these shocks, there's a pyro system here that whenever you crash the car, this lifts up the bonnet at the back. So be careful around the cabling here. This is obviously dangerous. You want to work with the battery disconnected. So we're going to have to disconnect each clip on each side and drop these arms as well. So let's go ahead and do that next. Now what you want to do is you want to remove these two arms that we just removed the clips from for the pyro system, and then lift the bonnet up. I've got a couple of handles from my bottle jack. Actually there's 3 pieces, but I'm just going to use 2 of these. I'm going to lock them in place, and that's what I'm going to use to support the bonnet.